Thank you for listening to Yesa Rising. This is your host, Crystal Cavalier and Jason Crazy Bear. Today we're talking about missing murder Indigenous women. We have U.S. Congresswoman Sharice Davids. We have actress Tantoo Cardinal, activist Aminah Ghaffar and Yesa Revels, and singer-songwriter Rhiannan Giddeons. So let's listen to what these women have to say on Yesa Rising on WKBY 1080 Inspirational Radio.
That's a totemtic. I'm honored to have been asked to share a few thoughts with you as you gather together and your prayer and your pain, and your sorrow, and your despair and agony and rage and panic and determination and hope and so much more. And when Crystal asked me if I would do this, my thoughts always go to how deep this is, how long this has been going on. You know, when the Euros arrived, they didn't have their women with them. They didn't have any respect for women. And what they found when they got here is a matrilineal society, civilization. For example, it is pretty much well known the Haudenosaunee women, um, because the Euro men wouldn't meet with a woman, then the men start being put forward, and but with specific instructions. But after a while, they start getting loose and they started making decisions on their own, and so the 1500s was a time where there was, what would you call that, insurrection, where the women said no more lovemaking, no more childbearing until you remember. Well, something got away, but that's something that's been here for a very long time, and it was brought here because we were primarily matrilineal civilizations. And I thought it was just for lack of a better term, the Iroquois Society or the Six Nations Confederacy, um, that it was only them. But Sylvia McAdam was brought forward some research where the Cree Nations also had Council of Grandmothers. See, that was hidden so deep with our history being taken away from us and all of that kind of stuff to weaken us. And so that was exciting to hear that is a part of the natural structure. One of the early suffragette women, Letitia Mott, was inspired when she went to Seneca Falls and saw how the clan mothers operated and how they were treated. So the suffragette movement has Indigenous women to thank. And it hasn't happened yet. There's a lot of space between 1920, when they got the vote, and 1960, when Indigenous women got to vote. There's a lot of history that's kind of buried in there. After all that history, then there's the Indian Act and residential schools and abducting our children in every kind of form that they can find. And all of these elements are like a sieve, the cracks and the foundations of this society that was built not for our benefit. We were born into an inherent injustice. And who we are was buried. Our amazing, powerful, beautiful women in history and in image making and every aspect of where we have made contributions and continue to make contributions completely undermined, and trying to push it under the rug, trying to get it out of the way, like it doesn't exist, so within the creation and the structure of this thing, that behavior that created those structures of the Indian Act, residential schools, la 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 la, and all the ways that we're impressed to carry out their dastardly colonial deeds in sanction with the church, And that came from a human being. And so within the structures that were created by this human being is this energetic reality that's tied right in with the foundations of what was created. And so, it's a tough one. And in South America, it's so bad, they have a term for it. It's called femicide. That's that cruelty that just wants to destroy us, eh? And the spirits and souls of our dear mothers and sisters and aunts and grandmothers and our brothers and fathers and grandfathers, and some are in spirit, some are not, but by their experience, they've told the truth about the society. The hole's been identified. Where and where is the will to tend to that breach that consumes our loved ones? We owe their sacrifice attention to this matter for the sake of the future, for the sake of our children that are coming up. That place is full of potholes. The Cree word for fire is escoteo, made up of two words, esco, which means woman, and mete, which means heart. And then the stories of creation go on to explain and describe the fire at the core of Mother Earth. And that's who we are. That's where we come from. That's the power of who we are. And as a species, we've been entrusted with a deep relationship to the mother of us all. It's made us a target, and it's given us resilience. I let my mother go into her new life, and I see her beautiful self being respected, loved, and appreciated. And in this life, I'll walk in the footsteps that could have been hers had the society been able to be like that. I think we owe it to our loved ones who never had that opportunity to let love lift our spirits up towards justice and a good outcome in this incessant walk towards a rightful place in life. Thank you for listening. And thank you for the hard work that you're doing, that you just insistent on doing, that you keep on doing, as hard as it is, toward justice and gathering support for the families that are in such agony. It doesn't even begin to describe it. So have a really fabulous gathering that's going to strengthen you and give you love and expand into that powerful place your loved ones want you to be at. See them in a good place. Oh, be safe. Yeah, be safe.
Thank you so much, Auntie Tantoo, for that. Up next, we have U.S. Congresswoman Sharice Davids. So, Sharice, what do you think about this issue? And thank you for being on here.
Hi, everyone. Sharice Davids here. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you all today, but it is extremely important. So, as you're all aware, Native women and girls experience disproportionate rates of violence, a crisis that has devastated our communities and has been neglected for far too long. I'm proud to be one of the first 2 Native American women elected to Congress, alongside my good friend, Representative Deb Haaland. Combating the epidemic of missing and murdered Indigenous women has been a large focus of my work. I was proud to preside over the House floor as we reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act with legislation that Congresswoman Hallen and I introduced specifically to address the abuse against Native women included in that bill. We have also put forward proactive solutions to ensure the safety of Native women and girls, increase coordination between law enforcement, and allow survivors to seek justice. These bills include Savannah's Act, the Not Invisible Act, the Justice for Native Survivors of Sexual Violence Act, among others. But we know these bills alone are not enough. We have a lot more work to do to ensure the safety of all Native women and girls. This is especially true right now as our country faces an unprecedented health crisis. And that's why we'll keep working towards that. Because I want to continue to work with all of you, and thank you again for all the hard work you're doing to bring attention to the missing and murdered Indigenous women crisis and to continue to work towards solutions. Thanks again, and I'll talk to you all soon.
Thank you so much, Representative Davids, for coming on to this radio broadcast to talk about these bills that you and former Congresswoman Holland passed through. Very important. So up next, we have activist Yesa Revels.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yesa Revels, and I am a member of the Lumbee Tribe of North Carolina. First of all, I would like to start this off by saying that I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy at home. I know these are very trying and difficult situations. I know for myself, I've never been in isolation so long, and it's been very difficult, but I've been trying to stay positive and productive. I would also like to say that I'm truly honored and blessed to have the opportunity to share my thoughts and experiences with you regarding the issues of missing and murdered Indigenous women. I am definitely not an expert on the topic, but I have spent the last 8 or more years studying, researching, and working in Indigenous communities related to issues of violence and substance use. And also, I am personally a victim of violence. I've seen it within my immediate family, and I've seen it within the communities that I live in regularly, and it's really heartbreaking. And I never saw myself as a survivor or victim of violence because I didn't have the usual story. I never went to the hospital. I didn't have bruises. It wasn't something that was ongoing. It was just a couple isolated incidences. And, someone really had to point that out and tell me that, you are a survivor of violence. And it was really kind of eye-opening for me. But these experiences have really driven my professional choices and career. So I have my bachelor's in criminology, which is really the study of criminal behavior. Why do people commit crimes? And then I have my master's and PhD in public health, specifically health behavior. So what are the day-to-day choices that we are making that influence our long-term health, and how can we prevent some of these poor health decisions or health behaviors and educate our communities on how to make better choices. So what I want to do is share just a few of what I see are the more important factors that exist within Indigenous communities that are really driving this issue of violence. And the number one most important factor that I have found is substance use or drug sales. So law enforcement in Indian country consistently report that the majority of property and violent crime in Indian country is directly linked to either the use of drugs or the sale of drugs. So individuals are committing property crimes to get access to resources to purchase drugs. They are committing violent acts in the process of distributing or selling drugs, or even more often, people are under the influence of drugs or alcohol when they commit a violent act. And this is very true for Indigenous women. The vast majority of Indigenous women report that their perpetrators were under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And I can say personally that this has been my experience. My perpetrator was under the influence of drugs. The violence that I witnessed within my communities has been somehow linked to drug use or drug sales. So this is a serious issue, but I think what's most important about this issue is that it's preventable. Um, Addressing substance use in our communities is one way to reduce the impact that violence is having on our American Indian women. Um, Also linked to this is the social conditions that exist within our community. Most American Indian communities are extremely impoverished, so individuals are really using substance use as a coping mechanism to deal with this poverty, the inability to get a job, to support their families, or they're selling drugs in an effort to make enough income to support their family. And so it's something that has become a part of our culture, a part of our day-to-day lives. We've normalized it. We don't see it as an issue anymore. It's just become a part of our life. And I think that's one of the biggest problems that needs to be addressed. And not only that, living in an impoverished community, you do not have access to the resources to prevent and treat this issue of substance use. You can't afford to go to counseling, and even more often than not, there's no counseling or treatment services available in your community. And I know this is true for the Lumbee community. We have, detox centers and counseling centers, but there's no long-term treatment options that exist within our community. If we do have an issue, we have to go outside the community to another city or another state even to get help. And so that's a problem. We need to find ways to improve access to these resources within our community. The third most important factor that I think is influencing this issue is a lack of unity and collaboration that exists within our communities. We are not working together to address this issue. We are working in our silos. Law enforcement is doing their own thing. The healthcare system is doing their own thing. The schools are doing their own thing. Churches are doing their own thing. I know for within the Lumbee community, our churches are not even really involved in issues of health or substance use at all. It's just not a part of the church culture, and it's a problem. We need to come at this issue with a united front. Law enforcement or the healthcare system or our tribal governments will not address these issues or change these issues by themselves. We have to collaborate together. We have to come together before any of these things can change. And because we don't have the resources that many other people have, many other communities, by coming together, we can really capitalize on the resources that we have as individual institutions and make a greater and larger impact in our communities by working together. And I really see this collaboration as critical and is the only way we are going to change this issue within our community. And I do feel that, this process is starting to occur. You're seeing more coalitions starting to form. Grants funders are now requiring multiple partners on grants, and this is starting to happen, but it's not where it needs to be yet. Even the coalitions that I participate in within our community are really functioning more as a place to just share and exchange information versus really coming together and developing a true collaborative effort to tackle these issues of violence and substance use and any other health issues that exist within our communities, really. So these are the major factors that I wanted to highlight for you. And I hope that this has been helpful. And, I'm always available the organizers of this event have my contact information. I have a dissertation that I wrote specifically about the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina and the links between violence and substance use and what is driving these outcomes in our communities, and I would love to share it if you're interested. And again, thank you so much for letting me participate, and I look forward to talking with you all in the future.
Asa, thank you so much. Rhiannon, what do you have to say about it?
Hi, my name is Rhiannan Giddeons, and I'm happy to be a part of this discussion. I'm mostly a singer and musician, but the topic of missing and murdered Indigenous women has been on my mind for a long time, and now in the time of COVID-19, it's ever more important to not let this get forgotten about even more than it is already. There's so much that needs to be done to raise awareness, and the more that we can stand together, the more that we can support each other, and the more that we can do to raise awareness of this issue, of how important it is, of how widespread it is, of how many of our sisters are being lost every year, the better. So this is a song I'm just going to sing because I'm sure there's many people who know a lot more than I do about this, but I'm going to sing a song that I sang originally, that I wrote for Portafe. Christian, who's an amazing singer, started the group Eulalie, and I also sang this with Charlie Lowry from Robeson County, North Carolina. But I have to sing it by myself now. But it's called We Rise. Sister of my tears, sister of my cries, hand in hand we stand as one, we push, we reach, we rise, we rise, we rise, we rise. Hand in hand we stand as one, we push, we reach, we rise. A mother's strength, a daughter's love, a sister's will that will be done. Our voices raised together will do the work of a million guns. Sister of my blood, sister of my heart, although the miles may separate us, we can't stand apart, 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 apart. Although the miles may separate us, we can't stand apart. Steel tempered in the fire of fear, strength tested in the dark of hate. We had it in us all along. It isn't, never, won't be too late. Sister in my joy, sister in my pain, the woman's burden placed upon us time and time again, 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 again. The woman's burden placed upon us time and time again, confused, abused, and used. We look to him for our salvation, not realizing our own hands will hold and shape a generation. Sister of my tears, sister of my cries, hand in hand we stand as one, we push, we reach, we rise, we rise, we rise, we rise. Hand in hand we stand as one, we push, we reach, we rise. Hand in hand we stand as one, we push, we reach, we rise. Hand in hand we stand as one, we push, we reach, we rise.
Oh my gosh, Rhiannon, that was a beautiful song. Thank you so much for that. Up next, we have activist Aminah Ghaffar. So, Aminah, can you just give us final words on this subject?
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to this program today. Native or non-native, your support is appreciated. My name is Aminah Ghaffar. I'm a member of the Lumbee tribe of North Carolina, and I'm so grateful to be able to participate in this event today. Thank you, Crystal, for giving me the opportunity, and it is always an honor. Before I speak, I always pray and I ask for the words to say. This is not an easy topic to talk about, but I ask Creator to give me strength Forever I will keep in my heart Megan Oxendine, Christina Bennett, and Rhonda Jones. I think of Faith Hedgepath, Henia Aguilar, and all the men, women, children, and Two-Spirit people that we were read for. Today, this is what I have to say. I run with a knife in my tights. I'm always aware. I keep strangers in sight. I hear my mother's voice. Stay alert. My father says, be aware of your surroundings. Don't go out by yourself. As I leave my grandmother's house, she tells me to be safe. My sister reminds me to go out with girls that I know. My aunt encourages me to watch my friends walk through the threshold of their homes before I drive away. We are always minutes away from becoming another statistic. This fear is from domestic terrorism that began in 1492. But we refuse to cower in fear anymore. Indigenous women have brought light to this issue. A bill passed recently to create and optimize task forces to find perpetrators and bring them to justice. However, we must remember the families of those who have lost someone. Their pain can never be undone. It is our duty to, as a community, to make sure that they are taken care of. It is our way to look out for those who are suffering spiritually, physically, and emotionally. Funding can be allocated to build facilities, to create programs to help grieving friends and family. There are those who were murdered, and there are some who are still missing. There are men, women, and children who have made it home physically, but their mind and spirit are still somewhere else. These same facilities can be used to help survivors readjust and heal. Through our kindness and support, we can help victims and their families cope with their trauma. Crimes against Indigenous women, men, children, and Two-Spirit are crimes of opportunity. Perpetrators are aware of societal neglect. This movement is not about diminishing other victims of sex trafficking and kidnapping. It is simply shining a light on a population that has been forgotten, a people who have been pushed off to the side and ignored for the comfort of this nation. We are America's biggest blemish, yet trendiest fetish. As non-Indigenous allies, stop turning a blind eye. Think twice before wearing that sexy Pocahontas costume. Do not contribute to perpetuating harmful stereotypes. In terms of statistics, I think that this movement would benefit from some consolidation and combining of resources. Every tribe is different and faces their own setbacks in tackling this issue. Having one database that encompasses all of the United States missing and murdered Indigenous peoples would help generate more accurate numbers. It is important to note that research available doesn't include a number of East Coast tribal territories and is reflective mostly of urban Indian communities. United Indian Health Institute has done a wonderful job in assessing data gaps within the National Missing Persons Database System, such as the misidentification of Native American missing people. We have to be willing to help research institutions by taking the time to respond to surveys for data collection. Never blame the victims. It doesn't matter if they were a drug addict, a sex worker, stayed in an abusive relationship, or you just didn't like them. The crimes against them were only the fault of the perpetrators. We live in a society that has systematically and historically disadvantaged Black and brown groups to live in poverty. Historical trauma has many of our Indigenous brothers and sisters disconnected from their spirit, leading to mental health problems or resorting to drugs to check out from their realities. These same systematic flaws cause some of our relatives to be lost in foster care systems, separated from their parents, and preyed upon by predators. Hold the perpetrators accountable. We are resilient people. Native American people have survived genocide, assimilation, and we are denouncing historical erasure. As matriarchs return to reign, we will not be silenced, and we will not rest until our missing and murdered women, men, children, and Two-Spirit are laid to rest, until all perpetrators are placed under arrest, and society's humanity is put to the test.
What a packed full broadcast of information. Thank you so much for listening to Yesa Rising on WKBY 1080 Inspirational Radio, and you can catch us every Monday at 1.